There we go. So the recording is started. The way I've got it set up now, been getting a lot of background and stuff. I'm not positive I'm going to be catching what you guys say. If you put it down on the chat line, I'll be sure to get it. But we'll see how this works out. There's been a lot of clicks and bangs and stuff, and trying to figure out how to get this stuff set up so that it's not totally annoying to watch as you go. Okay, so here's what we've got. I'll put the lecture right here when we're done. I do have a little demo that I did with Laura on, it was yesterday during office hours. She had some questions about how to do the DT102 using AutoCAD. You'll realize that each of the DT 102 or 302 professors teaches it a little bit differently. And I've started teaching that thing in Revit. And so if you wanted to do it in AutoCAD, you didn't know a lot of the tips. And so here is a little recording right here of the tips. It's not really, I was just dinking around and we were having a conversation and I was trying to show some things without any preparation or thought. So it's a little bit long. It's like 15, 16 minutes long. But there's some good little jewels in there if you want to look at it. What I would suggest, and I'll set this up this afternoon maybe, is that you guys go through these recordings and you note key timestamps when I say something that strikes your fancy or was something you didn't know or you think it's something that's really important to remember. And then you can log those, and that's a type of annotation. And for those of you who are taking the spec reading class, you'll know that annotations, note-taking, that key you back to the important parts, help you find that information again, because you can't just go off of memory, and you can't just go off your notes. You actually have to be able to find things in the specs and go back and copy them and read them very carefully to make sure that you're not violating them in some way or figure out what the heck it's talking about. You can do the same thing with these recordings. And so I think I'm ready to have you guys work on that. And that's just basically noting the title, the timestamp, sort of the topic, and a brief note about what's important. So I'll post a table for you guys to work in, and we'll put it in the discussion board. Okay. So there we go. So now, this stuff is due on Sunday. The DT100 set, that's the required one, sort of. Well, you need 6 pages. The DT102 set or the mixed use project set. And so those are due. So let's look and see. Now, if you get it done pretty well, but you're making a consistent mistake or there's something consistently that you could do better. For example, these are supposed to be black and white. That's the one of the things that we talk about when we make a formal drawing like this. Now, I don't necessarily agree that that's the best way. I think that as we move into a more virtual world, we'll be getting rid of some of these flat drawings anyway, especially as AR, augmented reality, comes into play. So I see that coming because, and why do I see that coming? Because I see people in industry already doing it. And if industry is doing it, the only reason can be because it's easier, better, or more effective for them. And all of those things make more money for them. So it's going to come. But for now, we're using these flat drawings, and so they need to look like flat drawings, and they need to look right. So that's coming up. Notice, this will be graded. Late submittals will receive a 0.0. Get it in. Yeah. Yeah. But here's the thing. So Laura goes, yikes, I did it in color. It's super easy. You go to plot PDF and change it to black and white. Okay, now sometimes AutoCAD and PDF fight over that, and there's a special setting that you could do. But at the worst, what you can do is plot it to PDF and then plot your PDF on monochrome, and then you get it in black and white. So there's like 1 or 2 extra steps. We always do it in color, but we want to put that in. Now, so my point was, though, is if you did it in color, I might go, you know, you got a 3.8 out of 4 or a 3.9 out of 4 or something like that because there was one consistent thing. Those are the types of things then that I would say, and if you would like to change it, I will regrade it. Okay? Sometimes I'll say, and you should change it for your final submittal, your final portfolio, but I'm not going to regrade it. So it just depends. Hopefully you're one of the first ones that I grade because I have a lot more patience at the beginning and I'm not as tired and I'm not as hungry and I'm not as sleepy. I tell you, I get through 15 or 20 of these things and I'm about to fall asleep. I'm sorry, folks. Your work is not exciting. Of course, I'm the one that's assigning the not exciting work. So that's a problem. But anyway, so that's coming up. If you do not have a submittal, it will receive a 0.0. And there are no extensions for this. You've had 3 weeks to get it in. You've had practiced ones to get it in. It needs to be in or you have a 0. Of course, if you get a 0 at the end of the semester, I will grade half of your 0 submittals. Okay. Any quick questions on that? It's coming up. And of course, we've got your professionalism report. So remember, submit at least one sample, okay, to the discussion board, and then put in your submit one to the discussion board, and then use one of these. Remember, we're trying to get you to do these in a standardized manner, just like a specification. It's sort of like getting used to stamps on a drawing. There's a received stamp and an approved for revision, approved for production stamp, and a needs revision stamp. So these are the equivalent on a discussion board of a stamp. And so I want you to at least get that on there at the start. Very nice work, nice work, good work, or needs work. And then if you want to add more, then you're welcome to do so. All right? So you post something, and then you do some replies or a reply, and then you submit your Google form report, which I do look at, by the way. Okay? So that's also due. And if you do it too late, I actually have a filter built in so that at the end of the semester, I only show ones that were done on time. So this one, again, is a timeliness thing. You will know, many of you do know because you're already in the workplace, but you will find out if you're not in the workplace already, getting things done on time is the number one thing that you have to do. And of course, that getting things done on time is making the assumption, which makes assumption ASSUMTION, makes an ass of you and me. But the assumption is that you've done it right also. So you get it done right, and then you put your work in. This is auditable too, by the way. So be careful, because if you say that you did a posting and did a reply, that's all auditable, which I will do at the end of the semesters. And of course, if you made a false certification, you go down a grade. So it's very, very standardized, folks. I'm not going to say strict, because it's not strict. It's just the way it is. And there's nothing about being correct in your work that should be thought of as over the top or extra. Being right in your work is the first number one thing that you do. Okay. And so I have to have my regular, you don't want to be a Volkswagen or anything like that. So no corporate lying, if we can help it. Okay. So there we go. Now we're into the lecture. We're 15 minutes in, so we can lecture. Review of plot plan standards. So we've talked about these, and so I thought I'd finally give you the link that you can look at. For those of you who have been in my classes before, of course, you'll recognize this because it's on my faculty webpage, which I'm not sure if you can even find anymore on the ARC webpage because they keep changing it. But these are the mechanical layering standards, and these are the civil layering standards. I don't really teach architecture. Let's see if I have an architectural one on here. Nope. But the civil layering standards, there they are. And you can do more than this. Now, I'm actually creating a little program. AutoCAD also has a standards checker, by the way, so that I can take your drawing and check to see if your layers match my standard. We will do that at some point. When you do your drawing in front of me, you're going to have something like this, and you're going to have to set up your layers, whether it be in Revit or AutoCAD or Vectorworks or Dynascape. You're going to have to set them up. And if you do it in AutoCAD or Revit, then I have this automatic way of checking it. Otherwise, I have to actually watch you do it, which I will do. But here we go. We have things like C-prop for the property lines. Phantom 2, it's kind of heavy, 0.028. It's black and white. C-topo, I used gray and 8. But really, that just means that it's not jumping out. Okay? You could use another one, and I made it 0.010. You could use a black white and make it thinner, but I like the gray and 8 personally. Parking. So your parking should jump out also. So it's black, white, 028 continuous. Now there are times when you'll want it to be, if it's not a hardscape, but it's like it's a proposal or something like that, or it's a demo. There are always times when you can change these. These are just sort of like a good start. So your parking, your hardscape should be an 028 black, white, continuous. Annotation, red or blue. I tend to use blue because when I'm teaching, you can see it better, but most places use a red. So red or blue. Your offset should be on a hidden 2 layer. This is, of course, if you're working in AutoCAD. But you should be familiar with what these look like in AutoCAD. Why does that C offset say no there? That should say yes. Shame on me. That's been up there forever. How can that be? How can nobody have actually read my good work? Dimensions, the same as annotation, and so on and so forth. These P and H, those don't exist anymore because nobody does civil work in AutoCAD in 3D modeling. However, if you're using Civil 3D, it still makes these for you. And it says by the solprof command, but that's essentially making, when you make a viewport and it creates the flat view for your viewport, it saves that as a flat view on these special layers that it can turn on and off easily. So if you're working in Civil 3D, I would love for us to use Civil 3D for our civil stuff. But I think that's just one too many programs to put into our set of software. Okay. General rules. Plot boundaries are primary. They stand out to the eye. Hardscapes are primary. They stand out. Everything else is secondary. Offsets, annotations. When you see a change in boundary direction, it's identified. Okay, and it often has an elevation marker. And north is always identified, and the actual scale is always identified. So let's keep those in mind. And let's take a look at some of the plot plan submittals. Now, I grabbed a couple of them out of here. I just grabbed a couple of them. Okay? And we'll just take a look and see, and we'll go through a couple more of them if we need to. So here's somebody's. Don't remember who this is because, they didn't put their name on it. So whoever's this is, remember to put your name on it. Maybe it's on the front. There it is, Benjamin. So real quick, just go bink, 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 and pop those on there so that we can get that. And on these icons here, what you're going to want to do is just show from your software some of the major tools that you are able to use. So if you're using Dynascape, you know there's tools that made your life easy. Just pop them on here. So let's take a look at some of these. We'll take a real brief view. And first thing that we note is that I can read these. They're pretty readable. Okay? So I can read them. I can see that there's obviously a boundary. I can see that there's topo lines. I can see very obviously what this surface is, what this is. So I'm seeing it. He's giving me the north arrow as part of his template as just a general. Okay, that way is always north. And that's fine. Okay. Often I'll actually put it in my model so that if somebody takes a snip of my model, they'll also have it. But this is perfectly acceptable. So now let's take a look and see what we might talk about to make it just a little bit better. And let me see if I can zoom in. So I know in the Revit, it showed it like this, where the bottom of the text was facing this line. If you can turn that around, we really want to be able to read from right to left. So stand on the right side of the drawing over here and look at it that way. So that's how you would change this if your text option allows you to do it. Also, these look really cool and these look really cool, but when I get out to my full view, I don't see those. So that's a line type scale, and I'm not positive in Dynascape how you deal with that. There's a few ways in AutoCAD. We use a paper space line type scale, PSLT scale command that's either 0 or 1 that readjusts your line type scale based on your viewport. Now, I'm not sure in Dynascape if you're using viewports or moving these off to new places, but you would like to change that line type scale there so that you can see the good work. You can see that's done that way. So I don't know if it's an LT scale, line type scale command, or how you do that in Dynascape, but if you can figure that out, that would be really cool. Everything else is looking good. I'm seeing the location markers. These are outside. The text height looks pretty good. This is a pretty nice drawing overall. Okay. Yeah, no. So now the elevation numbers are fine. A lot of people put them and actually that's one way that people do it. They say you put the elevation on the high side of your topo line, which is what you've done, versus putting it on top of it and making the break. So that looks good. And usually they are small. So these are usually like 1/8 inch, and these are usually like 3/32, something like that. So that's a nice drawing. Let's take a look at this one. I see the hardscape pops out really well, but the annotations are popping out a little too heavy too. Like my eye goes to the annotation, especially right here, where I am right here. It sort of makes me think that this is the driveway versus this is the driveway. And you know what? I think I might go into Jamboard. Hold on a second. Let me open my Jamboard. I think it'll be easier for me to show you stuff. And I'm not sure if you guys have ever used this, but it's a pretty cool tool. And it's right in your Google Drive. So you can put your drawing in. And then you can just do some like quick markups, right? So you can do that. You can erase some stuff. You can point at stuff. What I really like is these little sticky notes. Annotation's too dark. And you can just stick it up there. So, just in general. And so where you would see that the annotations are a little too dark, right there. See how that? My eye is actually drawn to that instead of being drawn to what I want it to see. See how that makes a difference? So if, let me see if, didn't let me erase that. It just lets me erase stuff that I've already drawn. Okay, so this is a little too dark. These again, they're taking away. And if you can, separate those a little bit. But overall, this looks pretty good. This isn't looking bad. Okay? Line weights, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So those are some comments there. Let's take a look at this one. This one looks really, really good, except I'm not going to see that black background. When you come to print this thing out, you're going to use a whole toner of black ink right off the bat. So just swap that. You shouldn't have that black background like that. And if that's a snip off of your drawing that looks that way, that's why I use a white background. Okay, plot that thing out and put it on there. This is it looks actually really good like this, but I'd never be able to see it and work with it. Okay, I want to, you're not supposed to change my template. My template's supposed to stay the way it is. And so I'm not seeing all the rest of the stuff either. Okay, so the directions are don't mess with the template. I got no clue what this thing is. If I get this, it says Module 1, Site Plans, and it needs to have the information that I'm looking for on it. So if you can go back and quickly change that back to put it onto the template that I'm looking for. I want to know what's supposed to be on each page and see it on that page. That's what I'm looking for. What does it look like on that page? Okay. But the line weights look great. And it looks like you've got everything in there pretty well. Okay. So there's that one. Here's another one. This one actually looks pretty good. Let's take a look and see. Let me take a snip of this and put it on the Jamboard really quick. I'm just going to take that part of it. Okay, so this one again looks pretty good, but it gets a little bit hard to see down in this area right here. So it's hard for me to tell the difference. And then again, I think I go up here, but see how I almost wanted to come over and run it there? But see this area right in here gets a little bit hard to see what's going on. So either those topo lines need to be made much lighter, or you even really reduce it so that there's, so you have like half of them, or there's only one or two of them. And your section here will call that out. Otherwise, it looks pretty good. Here's another little spot right here that's maybe if you could pull this up into here so that these lines don't cross each other, would just be a little really minor thing. But from the standards point of view, this really looks pretty darn good. I've got a nice bold property line. My hardscape is popping out pretty well. Maybe a little too dark on these, but they're out of the way enough so that I'm not really seeing them. These ones are sort of in the way. And so it you know, I don't know for sure, but it's pretty good. This one's looking pretty nice. This is really the only place that I can see that my eyes are not adjusting right. And then if you can get this to plot black and white, it can be hard in Revit. I think it really likes, I don't know if this is Revit or AutoCAD. I don't remember. It looks pretty Revit-y. Michelle, which did you use? So AutoCAD. Wow. That's really nice work. You did a really, really good job there. Looks good. Okay. So here's another one that really looks pretty darn, I mean, this looks pretty darn good. You know, things are popping where they're supposed to be. They're easy to see, easy to read. Again, just this one little thing about flipping this over. Let me take a snip of it and I'll throw that on the Jamboard too. But this is really what people are going for. Something super simple, super easy to see, and easy to read. And that's what this one is. I mean, your eyes go right to the stuff that you're most interested in. And again, the only thing, if this was done in Revit, there's nothing you can do about it. But that should turn around if you have the chance. Oh, and I see a typo. Wow. I've looked at this a whole bunch of times, and I did not see that typo. Right there. Okay. So there's another one. Let's see what this one was. Okay, here's another. This one looks pretty darn good too. I'll do a snip of this. And notice what we're doing is we're just trying to see. Now notice that most of these have not had a scale on them. So since we have a written dimension, it's not the end of the world because we can always get back to it. So again, this one's color. And so what you would want to do is just do it as black and white. When you do it as black and white, your annotations might turn out to be a little bit too heavy. And so that's where you would, depending on how you set up your plot to black white, what pen set you use, and whether you use grayscale or monochrome, you can work on these colors on your annotations so they don't overpower the rest of this. But look, the utility lines are really nicely drawn. You can see where they are without them overpowering you. You would want, if you could, to show those without having a little semicircle there. Tends to make people think that they actually connect in a T. Whereas if you put the little semicircle, it means that they're at different elevations and they're going to hop. Okay. But other than that, this is a pretty clean drawing all the way around. It's got the north arrow on it. This one got turned around in the right direction. That's how it should be for those of you who are looking. All the text sizes look really nice. I can see what I'm looking for. And I think this was the existing. Oh, this is utilities, right? So we don't need all the parking and all that kind of stuff. It's just showing on here where they're going to go. So this is one that sort of meets everything. We have markers at all the corners. We have elevations noted. We have nice work on these. So this is a clean drawing. Only thing you would want to do is change it to black-white. And probably put your 40-foot marker in over here. But standards-wise, it looks like everything is being met. So that's kind of cool. Let's take a look at this one. So this one, very much the same thing that I said on the other one. And this is Dynascape 2, right, Natalia? I think. And so there's probably some sort of a setting thing, because when I zoom in, I see that this line type is right. It's just not noticeable at the scale that it's plotted. Not as noticeable as I would like. But otherwise, this thing meets almost all the standards. So let me take a snip of this, and we'll just identify one or two minor things. And so you can tell that this is done by a landscaper because the landscaper actually put in what the canopy of the tree goes to. Right? That's what landscapers do. And it's good information. Good information for what it is. Okay, these are all nicely done. This is a easy to read drawing. So number one, there's really nothing wrong with it because I can read it, and everything that's important jumps out at me. So that's good. The things that could be made a little bit more standardized would be the elevation markers just at these corners, so that I'm not guessing. I'm not guessing if there's a little bit that goes like this over here or anything. If there's an elevation marker right there and right there and right, that would really be good. This is very clean. I'd still like to see those either a little bit lighter than the prop lines or the prop lines thicker and these thinner. Because the property lines are always the thing that wants to jump out at you. Otherwise, this looks like it's really good. It'd be nice to have a title, but I think that's probably on the page that I didn't snip, and it's probably on the template. So other than that, one other minor thing, and this probably was done on mine, but here I've got decimal feet, and here I have feet and inches. You want to be consistent between those. And this is the first one that I've really pegged it on. Okay, that probably floats through a lot of these. And here's a last one that we'll look at. So you guys are doing good work. Okay, so let's take a look at a few things. I guess this didn't have a zoom window. So that's just a little bit too small to be able to read. So I would make these just a little bit bigger. And then I can't tell if the line is going through that or not. But if it is, you want to either put a break on it or move that over. And then these, typically, they turn around the other way. Typically, the bottom of the numbers is on the low side of the topography line. So if you look at this, this is 26 and this is 25. And this is 25 and this is 24. And this is 24 and this is 23. So that's how that usually will work. This one doesn't have that, but standards wise, and you can just type it in as text if you want, but we're going to need to have those numbers. But standards wise, again, it would be good to see this as a phantom line. At least be bold. At least be bold. Okay? But it's a clean drawing. I can see the drawing. Oh, and the other thing that we talked about is we try to put those on the outside. Okay? And those on the outside. Okay? But this does its job. From a planning point of view, I'd be able to work with this. Nice to have a north arrow and scale and all that other kind of stuff. Okay. So those were some of them, and you guys can go through here. What I'm noticing is you're not reading the directions all the way. So be sure that you do this. Okay, let me make it big enough so that you can see it. Add one of the comments below. So this is just like reading a specification. You have to get all the parts of it and go through it very carefully and very clearly and make sure that you do it. So you're supposed to add one of the comments below, which means you copy and paste it in there. If you have comments, you copy and paste this one and then write the comments. And if you see some things that are missing or some real improvements that need to be made, you would use this one. And if you see like, okay, I saw the property lines, but it's missing this. Or if the assignment was the wrong property or something like that, you would do this. And so these are just like stamps. And so you make a copy of this. So I'm gonna make a copy. And then I'm gonna come down. Well, here's a nice example of one. Please see the comments. If you know the wipeout command, you could Okay, so I looked at this one, and it's really good work. There was nothing really wrong with it, but there was this one little thing that could be done. So it was nice work. Please see comments for improvement. It matches what's up here. Okay, so I'd like to see that. As we move forward, that'll be one of the things that I'm going to be commenting to a lot, is whether you're really matching the requirements of the work. Have you read, and this is like the easiest specification ever, right? Compared to some of those land planning specs, City and County of Sacramento and ISO 9001. It's important that you actually get the details from it. So this is like what they call a capstone class, where we're not just teaching you how to draw, but we're teaching you some of the industry standard requirements, which is mostly revolving around how do we communicate the requirements. So that's what I've done here. These are the requirements. You do it every week. This is why. This is what you do. And then this is what you do. Cool. So please be sure to be doing those. I think it's a real easy way to get. It's not worth a lot, right? It's worth 4 points. But if you're on the edge of, going from a 89.1% to an 89.8%, where I'm going to round it up to a 90 to get an A, those couple of points can make a difference. And more than anything else, you're being collaborative. You're helping your colleagues do better too. And the one thing I've learned from all my experience as a judo instructor and a jiu-jitsu instructor and a engineering manager is that when I'm helping somebody do a better job, I learn about it too. Okay, so try to get those ones done. Okay, so Laura asks, where do you put your original link? One of these had it, and it was really cool. It's Benjamin's. So I'm going to show you Benjamin's here. Right there. Okay? So that's a good place to put it. Now, you could also Let me see. Let me just go into my class standard here. If you wanted to, let me take a copy that link URL. If you want to, you could actually type like link URL and put the link in like that so that it's not such a big long thing. Now there's advantages to doing it this way, which is if you plot this to something that doesn't carry the link along with it, somebody could still get down and type that in if they wanted to. So there's some advantages to doing this, and it's up to you, but you should be knowledgeable when you do something. Number 9, number 9, number 9. Do nothing that is useless. So know why, and to make sure that you're doing nothing that is useless, you have to know what's useful. So the purpose of this is to let somebody get to your work. Okay, so they have to be able to get to your work. The link gets to your work. If you think that somebody might be using this in a format where they cannot follow the link, then this is very useful because it helps you do the job. If you think that you want it to look cleaner, neater, nicer, and that people will be looking for that, then you would replace this with some words and do that, the link thing over the top of it. Totally up to you. But this is where you would put it, right here, first page. Cool? And if you want to put down what program you're using, this is really where you're doing that. These are the icons that go with your program. So the main icon you would put in here is the icon for the program. If you use more than one program, just put them all in here. And then your icons would be important things that you use. Like if you were using DWF, you could take a snip of the stamps icon. Okay, or you could take a snip of the measure icon. Or you could take a snip of the markup and measure toolbar. Something like that. It's so dependent on what your portfolio was and what you did and how you did it, that I can't really put a sample on here for you very well. Hopefully what I just did there will give you a clue. And you would want to put ones that just let somebody know that you just did nice work and you sort of know what that interface was. Oh, okay. So Laura's really asking, where do you put your link to the actual drawings, right? So did I give you a reference one down here? I didn't. So there's two ways that you can go about doing that. So Laura really asks, if you want to have a link to where that drawing is, how do you do it? To the actual real drawing. So two ways. One is you could put your link right here. I don't think, does this let me put links in? No. So I'll just come back to this one. You can click on this and you can actually just link that image back to your source file. So that would be a good way to do it. Okay. Another good way to do it would be to make that just a little bit smaller or put a piece of text down here in a place that's easy to see. Link to original file. Okay. So that's how you can do that. I like just having a person click on it, but again, if they're not in a program that's obviously clickable, you could have just a nice little icon that goes down to the Revit file for it. Click. Something like that. Cool. Okay, any other questions about your portfolio and what that's going to look like? Oh, one other quick thing is I don't want to see all the blank files, blank pages. So go ahead and right-click delete. I'm in a view only right here, but you can right-click delete the ones that you're not going to present. Okay? Make sure that there's at least 6, and really you want more. I mean, if you want to show that you're industry ready versus you're able to do well in the class, you'll have more of them. Okay. Yeah, so please.
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
You said link to original program. That doesn't mean a link to the CAD program if I in a CAD format?
Yeah, the link to, let's say this was made, let me just go find, I don't have a search up. Like, it would be like if that was an AutoCAD file, it would be to your original AutoCAD file or your original Dynascape file or your original Vectorworks file. Just a link back to that thing so that somebody could actually look at it and see what methods you used, how you did it, how you laid it out within your own file versus just links to the PDFs. So it's a link to the original file that you used when you drew the plot plan.
I do understand that, but if somebody does not have that program, he or she won't be able to open the file.
Well, that's right. Yep, that's perfectly true. But your plot, this is showing your work just fine. That shows your work just fine. Hopefully you're going to be, working with somebody who can. And look, if you allow them to, they can always download Dynascape and put it into DWG TrueView, because DWG TrueView will read just about anything under the sun that's a vector. Or they could, put it into any number of programs that will actually read it. There are online programs that will do that. So you just want to give them access. Now, if you don't want to give them access, that's okay. You can say people can view it and not download it. So you know that there's a way here. If you go into your settings, shareable, let me look and see. There's a way that you can do your settings on here. Where you can make it so that people can't download, print, or copy. They can only just look at it. Did you guys know that? That's in there. And look, you can make it so that editors can edit, but they can't change the sharing permissions. And you can make it so that they can't or so they can download, print, and copy. Isn't that cool stuff? So you can do that on a bunch of these too. And yes, I did record this. I hope I did. It says the recording is still going. That's good. Can you show all 12? Yes. The hope is that you are going to show all of these because it shows that you're really industry ready and you're practicing and you can do good work and do it quickly. Okay, those are all really good questions. Any other questions? Okay, well, we're done with lecture, so I'm going to turn it off. But before I do, I asked you guys to go look and find some specs where you use these typical calculations. So I'm going to ask right off the bat, has anybody got a couple of calculations that you're wondering about or you don't know how to do? You found them in the specs and you're wondering about the calculation sheet, where you would find them and how you would do them. So I put a few things on here. So did anybody do that? Because at some point, I'm going to require a bunch of stuff. So if you guys have done your, I know it's like, well, shoot, I was drawing the whole time and I was doing this and I was doing this and I was doing this. But this is a 5-unit class and there's lots of work involved. And so I'm treating you like professionals that will do things because it's good for you professionally versus you have to do this and you have to do that. That's high school, and I never did like being the idea of being a high school teacher. So anybody go through and find some area calculations, how to do them for like utilities or gas or electrical or irrigation, that you're wondering about? Either how do you find the area from a drawing or how do I get my calculation?
I guess I pulled open that Excel file and I just saw the stuff for the rise and the run.
Okay, see down here, there's slope and grade right here.
George.
And then there's another worksheet.
Got it.
Area and perimeter. Yeah, it's like, oh, how come you did that? Okay. And of course, I think you're opening it and it's a view only, right, for you? So you're going to have to
downloaded it.
Yeah, your file, make a copy. And you might need to, as I add more, as we get deeper into the class, you might need to like copy a sheet. So here's how you do that. Let's say in yours, let's say I've added some new sheet, other stuff. And you go, oh man, I downloaded that before Schuster put other stuff on there. Well, you would just go to yours and make a new sheet called other stuff. And then you would go to mine. And if you click this top corner, it grabs the entire worksheet. And you can copy the entire worksheet. And then you can go paste it just right there, Control V, into the entire worksheet. And what's nice then is if you do it that way, it adjusts all the column and the row heights to be correct. Okay. All right. Well, there we go. I'm going to turn off the recording.